Right, because the whole really story of The Last Dance was this was going to be the final season. The coach is going to be gone after this. We're not sure where the players are going to end up. Jordan might stay. Pippen might stay. There's a lot of friction. There's actually a lot of friction with Pippen and the general manager.
Yeah, that was mostly.
There was a lot of friction between these two, but you're right. The owner wasn't really part of this conversation.
Ever. And he's a great guy, too. I do an event with Jerry Reinsdorf and every year in Las Vegas. And he's a great guy, great businessman, but you're not going to walk in and have conversation. I remember when Mr. Davison, who owned the Pistons, would come around. He was such a nice man, and he was so quiet. And everybody, hey, Mr. D. He's like, hey, how are you? You're not being aggressive and saying anything. And if guys are going in and talking to the management about your play or your job, then they're really not that good. Because if you're that good, you should be so tired when you finish playing, you don't have time to talk about anything else.
Right. Well, I looked it up. Jerry Reinsdorf has a net worth of $1.5 billion, which sounds kind of light, to be honest. This is according to the internet. He made his fortune buying Chicago sports teams, which of course is the Bulls, but he also bought the White Sox in '81 for $19 million and still owns 19% of that. So he must have sold that off at a hefty profit.
Yeah.
$19 million for the White Sox? Shit, I would buy that. If anyone wants to resell it to me for 19, I'll come up with that money. I'll scrape that together. I'll get that loan.
He's a good dude. He's a good guy, man.
$1.5 billion. Yeah, I mean, you're talking to a billionaire.
Yeah. And you're not going to talk to him any kind of way because he set up, you talk to your coach, and then your coach can talk to the general manager, and then the general manager can talk back to your coach, but you're not going around them to the guy. It's not happening.
Even if you're Jordan, even if you're LeBron, even if you're Kobe.
No, then they wouldn't do that. See, the one thing people realize is these guys realize this is these people's livelihood. That's why Michael Jordan, when they were like, he was so intense when he was playing, because he was trying to get the guys that they picked to be better, not to get rid of. He wasn't looking to bring in anybody, and he was competing with them and going against them because steel usually sharpens steel. It's when the guys looked at it differently. I don't know. I've always played like that. I always played talking a lot of smack and never trying to hurt the guy, but always trying to get over and do something else.
Well, Kawhi Leonard reportedly told the Raptors that he didn't think they were good enough to repeat.
And that's why he left.
That's why he left. Which is a little weird because can you make heads or tails out of that after just winning the finals like that?
If you offered me pay my taxes, buy my house, what else did they offer him?
Helicopter access?
Like, there's no way. I love Toronto. That's another thing. But I love being in Los Angeles. So I get what he gets to come home. He gets to, he took his team far. Took the Clippers far. Not farther than anybody else, but he took them far. So I think it was a good move to come home. But man, that Toronto life was so great.
Right, because you played for the Raptors.
Yeah, I was on the first Raptor team, and I loved the city. So
the first ever Raptor team.
Yeah.
Wow, when there wasn't a team at all. How did they really sort of materialize an NBA team in Canada?
There was a guy who used to bring us, the Pistons, since the 80s, up to have exhibition games in a city outside of Toronto called Hamilton. And the NBA allowed him to throw in this exhibition. It was like part of our exhibition season. And he kept doing it until they realized that there was a market for it. And so that became our first international team. And then the Timberwolves were in Vancouver, only for a short period of time though. And so they just realized, hey, it's 3 hours from New York. It's right up from Detroit. It's, we can do this. They got a baseball team there. They got football team in Buffalo, New York.
Mm-hmm.
They just felt that if they were going to do something international, it was better be right at that border. And remember, Isaiah Thomas was the owner of that team, so they had their way of thinking they were going to build it. Every day in the paper in Toronto was showing in the middle of the paper a new rule that they had to learn. The referee does this. This means this, and I used to laugh at it because I laughed in 1995 at it, but then they were NBA champions, 30 years later, or 25 years later.